Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendan Traxler.
Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Colonize the Ocean podcast. Once again, I am Adam Jewell, and with me, as always, is Brendan Traxler, the founder of Undersea Colony.
All right, so let's get on topic. We're going to be talking about undersea mining.
Well, yeah, because I got
concept tonight.
It is. I got thinking maybe we should do like a series type of thing. So I talk about different business ventures that will have to do with the ocean. In the past we've talked about the different stuff that especially look at ASC. What we're looking at is data centers, greenhouses, resorts, scientific research. Those are some ones. All those are fairly green endeavors. But the big one that we haven't talked about really that much, and people are talking about, is undersea mining. In fact, I just listened to a podcast last week. It's an undersea podcast that talks about stuff going on there, and they had a guy on that's got a company that's why he's working on getting the rights right now to start undersea mining. And so we'll talk about the good and the bad.
Right. That's what I was about to interrupt you and ask you, is like, because
it's going to happen. Realistically, it's going to happen.
Right. And a lot of times when I'm looking for like the news articles to post on our social medias and stuff, I see articles about that, and it seems like it's a controversial thing where it's just like there's a lot of debate over, the pros and cons of it. So I'm assuming you've done your research and you're going to share what the pros and cons of it are and what the future of it might have in store for us.
Yeah, there's not too many pros. Honestly,
okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, the only pro is that it's an untapped. It's 75% of the Earth's ocean, or the Earth is unmined. So from that standpoint, you've got a lot of resources out there available, and these people know it too. It's a big business, big industry. But as far as the cons go, there's just so many of them, because this guy was talking about how they've already done some tests on an area where they scraped off the seamount, and they tested it, and they said within 30 years the sea life had come back. That's 30 years. And then when they got digging a little bit more, it was the lower sea life, like the plants and stuff like that had come back, but the fish and stuff that move around and stuff, they never returned back to that area again. And also it was just a very temporary. It's like the best area possible to test it on, so it wasn't like a real world environment. Because if you start killing like black smokers, like underwater volcanoes and stuff like that, that's going to destroy the ecosystem of that area and have some profound effects. So really, they were grilling this guy on, which I was applauding them for. It kind of made me a little anxious hearing these guys interviewing this guy, because they were really giving it to him. But he was trying to answer it. But there doesn't, until there's a way that you can almost cap that area and almost put like a dome over it to protect it. Because as soon as you it's going to start throwing sediment up in the thing. Mm-hmm. It makes it dirty, filthy. If they have any sort of issue, then it's going to pollute the area. So you almost have to put a dome over this sector, do your mining there, clean it up, then remove the dome type of thing. And nobody's going to invest that kind of money, I think, to do that. They don't care that much because it's going to carry their bottom line. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you look at the dollar side of the thing, and it looks really good, but from the ecological side of the thing, there's not a lot of positives there.
So what is the main thing that people are trying to mine?
I think most of it's ore, but because oil, they pretty much got that with the oil derricks and stuff along those lines. Obviously, super deep is still barren, but most of it's ore for the most part, different ores and stuff.
That's what I was going to say. Is it one of those things where we're trying to mine something that we just haven't found alternatives for, to where it's just like, is it a dying industry that is like trying to grasp a hold of just new places to tap into, or so like, that's why I'm saying like what kind of ore and stuff are they after? Because I've heard that like there's plenty of gold, but it's like what's the word I'm looking for? Like not like concentrated clusters of it, but like
they spread out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is driven basically twofold by the growth of humanity and our need for more and more stuff, and also batteries, because we're making, that's requiring so many more. And a lot of the places we get some of the ingredients for batteries are from very war-torn areas, and so it's almost like blood diamonds used to be. It's like blood batteries for like, I think it's cobalt, I think is what it is. Comes from some pretty bad places. So obviously there's other places to mine that from. That's a benefit, even though a lot of the batteries now they're finding alternatives to cobalt, but still.
I'd say that's been like a lot of the controversy with electric vehicles is like where they're getting the battery materials.
Yeah. So yeah, once again, I think it's most ores is what they're looking for. This guy wasn't specifying what they were looking for. I don't think he necessarily cared either. It was, once again, it's just start trying to get the rights and start mining and seeing what's there, I guess. But it's the same problem with space too. I mean, they're already talking about mining the moon, and it's going to be the same situation. Fortunately, with the moon, there's nothing there, so you're not destroying it. Right, destroying an ecosystem. But it's still the fact that first thing we do when we go to some new places, mine it and destroy it.
Yeah.
But turning it around, playing devil's advocate and stuff like that. It's industries like this that are definitely going to feed the way or fund undersea habitats, undersea technologies, because it always has been. Look at Jacques Cousteau. His con shelf programs were paid for by the oil industry in order to try to find ways of building underwater habitats for oil workers to live in and stuff. So it's these big businesses that have funded the way in the past for a lot of our way of life.
I pulled up an article here. It's an old article. It's from June 21st, 2013.
Ooh.
It says the pros and cons of deep sea mining. And some of it's not loading up, but one thing it does say right here off the bat, it says that it is believed that there is over $150 trillion worth of gold in the seabed. That is 10 times the entire U.S. GDP of 15.09 trillion. That's outdated, by the way.
I say, think how much that's worth now. The gold prices the way they are now.
Well, yeah. It says there are 4 kilograms of gold hidden in the seabed for every person on the planet. That's $180,000 worth of gold per person. But like you said, that was 2013 prices. For some reason the rest of the article's not pulling up, probably because it's an old website. But yeah, it's I hate how every time you go to a website, it's just like, hey, you want to sign up for our newsletter before you can even read anything. It's got me a little upset. But yeah, everything that like I have seen thus far is, like you said, destroying. Because you're not. Let me backtrack. Our thing has always been that whatever we do, we are not going to go in with the intent of destroying the ecosystem and messing things up. Like, we're going to try to be as non-invasive as possible. Because obviously the whole point of what we want to do is to enjoy the environment around, your habitat. Whereas, like I said, when it comes to mining and oil and whatever it is, like, these industries are notorious for just destroying whatever it is they get to, whether it's like destroying forests for whatever reason, whether it's like messing up grounds for coal and all this, and drilling for oil and oil spills places, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, yeah, it makes you worry because it's, like I said, I'm on the fence because you have the potential to find alternative ways of obtaining a resource, but at what cost?
Yeah. And I don't, you're going off there talking about how always negative things. There's a lot of positives that come from, the oil industry and some of those lines. You look at, they usually, most times the oil industry and stuff like that, you look at the ground and stuff like that where pipelines have been laid and stuff, and usually it goes back to being normal. The ecosystem repairs itself and goes back over time. Mining, not so much. I've yet to see a mining location that isn't left as a giant hole in the ground,
right,
or something too. So, I have a little bit more leniency with the oil industry than I do the mining industry with that fact.
Yeah, that's fair.
At the same time, yeah, I'm with you. It's going to happen. It'll happen pretty soon too, is my guess. So, I mean, I guess that brings up the question is, there's not much you and I can do about it. But, as a society, how do we respond to this? We can stomp our feet and we can sign protests all day long, but the money is going to write the bills and they're going to get it passed. So I say it's an inevitability that's going to happen. So I think that's I've said before, as we're the first people to start building habitats underwater open to the public, have to be the ones that set the rules and set the standards for how everybody else behaves in this industry. And I think the same thing needs to be said for like the people with the mining industry too, is it has to be, and unfortunately it probably won't be, an ethical company that's looking out for the best of everything involved. Glenn's got something here saying something here. What's going on?
Says, try to imagine 1920 and they had an environmental organization as we do today. Would we have ever grown enough to feed the amount of people we do today, or would environmental restrictions stagnate and hinder our abilities to do what is needed to advance survive? Would the farms be limited and would the growth of our planet be stunted? Just a thought. Most green advocates are talking about a pinhead of a universe we understand too little about. Responsibility is what most everyone I know.
Yeah, and I agree. Because I would not count myself as an environmentalist by any stretch of the imagination. I believe that we need to take care of our environment, but I'm not going to cut off my left hand for my right hand type of thing either. We're not going to do away with the oil industry. If we did, all of our lives would drastically change overnight. Half the clothes we wear, we wouldn't have computers, we wouldn't have cars, we wouldn't have anything anymore, because we need the petroleum for every aspect of the grease, everything, all that kind of thing that comes down to every aspect of our life is by that. And by Glenn's point, yes, the lax restrictions, I think goes back to when we start getting to a political discussion now, as far as rights and liberties and stuff along those lines. Are there rules and regulations, or how lax or stringent are those?
It's a super philosophical question, because politically, I like, you guys know me well enough to know that I believe there's got to, people need to live their lives without government interference, or as little interference as possible. But I do also understand that when people don't have guidelines, or if they don't have something to keep them in check, people will act irresponsibly. Some will, not all. I like to believe that most people are going to be good. So it's just like, if we didn't have a lot of the environmental protection laws and stuff like that, would companies be just go crazy and be like, okay, we're just going to, we don't have to follow any rules, we're going to tear everything up? Or is it going to be where someone, that's going to open up opportunities for people that are more, green-minded or eco-friendly minded to work through these ventures and maybe have less red tape to jump through in order to open their, pursue their visions with whatever it may be. So, yeah, that's where I've always struggled with a lot of different topics is it's just like, yeah, I'd like to believe that if you don't restrict people, that they'll do good things. But there are going to be people that abuse that.
Yeah, and again, to Len's point, he's talking about would the farms be limited and would the growth of the planet be saturated? Well, even today, growing up in Illinois, I know lots. It's all farmland for the most part where I'm from, and there are. I mean, it's even to this day, it's heavily subsidized, and they're kind of told what to grow and what not to grow by the government. It's like if you're growing beans, we'll pay you not to grow beans this year because we got either an influx or a shortness of it. So even to this day, the government has its hand in it. But yes, back in the turn of the century, where those regulations and stuff weren't in play, probably half the United States wouldn't be farmland now if our rules today were back then. And who knows where we would be. Obviously, yes, not where we're at today by any stretch of the imagination. But once again, it's hard to look back and say that now, because would we have been forced to go an alternative route to save land and find alternatives to what we're used to now? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's always been a struggle with just my belief system, really, is because it's like I wouldn't say, like I said, I wouldn't say I'm an environmentalist, but at the same time, like, I do think it's like super important to, preserve and protect certain, as much area and wildlife and all that is possible, because I do believe that if we didn't protect certain, I guess, areas and whatever, that people would just tear it down, or people would just, we've seen over the last, let's say 2 centuries or whatever, the amount of like animals that have gone extinct. And it's not just because of, how nature works, but, human interference has caused a lot of that, whether it's from hunting or destroying habitats or whatever it may be. So yeah, at some point someone had to step in and say, okay, we got to start figuring out how we balance everything. But now, once again, with a lot of political things, is like, are we overcorrecting to the point of where now we're making it difficult for people to do whatever, because like when we tried to, correct the ship, we overturned it, because we were trying to go so far the other way to, correct it.
But on that point there too, we're getting completely off topic, I think, here to an extent. But I also see that anytime there is a negative like that, that's where it opens the way for a business or a nonprofit or something to come in and offer a solution. So really, even those negatives can create jobs and make the best out of a situation by, either protecting those animals and growing them back into a healthy population or whatever it may be. As we're talking at the start of the show, is about, the cleanup. It's a horrible issue, but look at the jobs it's creating and the technologies we're inventing because of a bad thing happened that otherwise wouldn't have been created.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with underwater habitats. Once we start putting them down there, the technologies will grow so quickly to feed that need because it has to happen.
Yep.
Invention is the mother, whatever it is of. There's that statement that talks about how invention comes from, necessity.
Yeah. You butchered that, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You just wish people could skip past the problems and and just be able to, but yeah. I get exactly what you're saying. It's just how human nature works. That's just how the world works, really, is that, people evolve and all that stuff, and business evolves. And, so, but going back to where we started, are we pro or against mining? No, I'm kidding. Because we kind of just answered that with a big, long debate there. But so I guess what do you envision how it should go then? If it's something that's going to take place, how would you envision this industry going?
So, little known fact: back when I first started designing Atlantic Sea Colony, I had designs for like an underwater mining / oil platform. Obviously, the designs back then were way huge and they were not feasible. But it is something that even back in my youth, back in the 90s, all the way back there, 1996, 5, somewhere around there. Anyway, no, but I don't know. I really don't know because yes, could you produce a way of protecting it or lessening the effects? Let me put it that way. You're not going to protect it, but lessening the effects. Yeah, but at what cost? And who's going to lose money on the endeavor or break even because of the ridiculous cost it's going to take to mine underwater just because of the technology needed to get down there? I think is where the problem comes in. So in an ideal world where money isn't a factor, then yeah, I think you could. I think you could, like I said, slowly cap off where you're working to protect the surrounding environment from any harmful, degradation of the land and the animals and stuff along those lines. Still, that area that you're mining is going to get destroyed and is not going to, and there is no answer to how to fix that except for time. And if that's the case, if you had to have restrictions where you can't mine another place until the place you just destroyed comes back, nobody's going to do that.
Yeah, and then I'd like to think that. So, going back to what you're saying about how you go through the bad things in order for innovation to come through, I'd also like to think that will happen a lot quicker because we've seen.
Yep.
For example, like however many years ago the BP oil spill was, where it was just like the whole world was watching because that one derrick like spilled oil everywhere, and like BP like was not in a good spot because of it. Because I mean, you didn't have to be an environmentalist to be pretty upset about the situation because it's like, okay, you're not only are you destroying an environment and killing whatever, millions of dollars worth of whatever is just spilling out there. Yeah. And so it's just like, you'd think that mindset is going to be there for whoever wants to go into, undersea mining it,
Yeah, they don't want to be they don't want to be that person.
Yeah, they're like, all right, so if we're going to do this, we're going to do it carefully, or like I said, I'm hoping that's the mindset of whoever's going to go into it. Or maybe that's what they are doing, is thinking of like a responsible way of going about it, as non-invasive as possible. I mean, like you said, you're going to be invasive regardless, but is there a way to minimize it? Is there a way, So maybe,
and you're right. And you're right. I think that the technology, once again, or an organization will come up to find a solution to fix the damage done, and in some way or another, because the organizations going out there right now is if they have an oil spill, it's what 1% to fix it versus all the money they're making off of it anyway. So to have an oil spill isn't that big deal, except for the PR nightmare of the thing. But as far as the dollar wise, it doesn't hurt them that bad because it's not that expensive versus the amount of money they're going to make either way. Same thing with mining is the same way. Yes. Yeah, it may cost you a lawsuit or something along those lines, but that's minimal. That's why they have insurance and they've got good lawyers and stuff along those lines. I think the bigger thing what industries will rise up to feel that need and try to fix those areas after mining has come in and done the damage. So I think maybe when I thought about this, and as we're talking here, the question so much isn't how should we address the mining aspect, because it's going to happen. It's going to be destructive. It's going to be horrible, most likely. But how do we fix it after the fact? So, and once again,
Kevin Bacon.
What?
Wasn't Kevin Bacon the one, or who was it that had the design or the plans to clean up the oil spill back in the day? Wasn't there an actor? Wasn't it Kevin Bacon?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Kevin Costner? I'm not crazy when I think about this. Now I have to find this. Hold on.
All right. While you're doing that, I'm going to read Glenn's comment here, because Glenn's like, pirates may well lead the way, but rum is the reason pirates never rule the world. Rules become rules after circumstances are brought to the front to be addressed. Guess we got to mess it up before regulations can be. Yeah, exactly. Just like with inventions, same thing with rules. Unfortunately, that's the case. That sometimes. But then you get into the whole thing of over legislation and over rules, and that's why we have warning labels on everything now because of people. Oh yeah, I do remember that.
It was Kevin Costner, not Kevin Bacon.
I do remember that now. Yeah, because that was after that last oil spill down there and like off the coast that he came out or wherever that was. Yeah.
Yeah, because he said he had a machine that would help.
Yeah. Yep, I remember that.
The machines are warehoused in Louisiana sitting there, but the desire is gone to spend the money and have them at the ready.
Yep.
They had
it was cool. It like take the water and instantly like remove the oil out of it. It's pretty cool. I remember him showing it off.
So the 32 machines, each being able to process more than 200,000 gallons of oil a day. They're just sitting idle. Owners said that they hope to use them again if needed.
That's one of those things you hope you never have to use it.
Right, but thank God somebody had something that could do that. Kevin had them ready 10 years before the spill, but the oil spill happened, and it took us a while to get out there.
My idea was just get a giant ShamWow and stick out in the ocean and it'd take care of it.
Yeah, but where are you going to wring it out?
Canada.
Yeah, they're not going to support anything we're doing. We can go ahead and talk smack about Canadians.
No, I'm just kidding. Now, that is a question. That's a good question. Where do you take? I guess you would put it in a holding tank or something like that after you export all that oil. And is it usable then?
Well, yeah, I think the whole thing is that they're reusable, but I'm saying wring it out.
Is the oil, the petroleum, is it usable after it gets wrung out?
I'm sure it still burns. And that's the thing too, like you were mentioning earlier with oil. Everybody like always gets worked up about oil prices because of like gas. But it's just like people don't realize like most plastics come from like oil.
Yep.
So it's like
there's nothing on my desk right now that does not have a petroleum-based product in it. Even this candy wrapper has probably got some petroleum-based in it. But yeah, everything on my glasses, my microphone, my cup. So yeah, your whole entire life, all my dive masks up here on the wall, they're all, our life would completely stop how we knew it.
But we're trying to do recyclable plastic.
We are, but that fixes the plastic aspect of it, but doesn't fix the other issues.
No, I'm saying it takes that part of it away.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's baby steps. Yeah, it is baby steps.
I think we've created enough plastic things in the world that as long as we keep recycling them, we'll have an endless supply of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And now we just need to do the other stuff. I mean that can be a whole that has nothing to do with us, but eventually it will run out. Maybe not in our lifetime or whatever, but it's just like, so at some point we do have to figure it out. Or maybe we'll all die because of an asteroid.
I'll be in my underwater habitat, surviving it out.
I still don't think that helps.
Yeah.
Think of all the underwater dinosaurs that died during the...
They weren't as smart as us. They didn't have underwater habitats to live in.
The caves!
Yeah.
That's how Loch Ness Monster got to work.
But see, it cut off their food supply, and if you can still grow your own food and produce your own oxygen and water from their surrounding...
Whatever.
I'm just saying.
I'm tired of hearing your crap.
I don't think it's that big of a deal anymore. But anyway, yeah. So
pirates. Yarg.
So yeah, I think we're going to keep on going this series. I think next week we'll talk about another underwater business potential that that may involve the future of funding underwater habitats and exploration and stuff along those lines. But we do have some guests coming up. I got to get back with our marine biologist, make sure he's good to come on here later this month. In September, October, we're going to have Divers Network coming on. As Glenn says, mining underwater is better ask forgiveness than permission.
That's what a married man says.
Yes, well, that's probably the case. So Yeah, we got some good interviews coming up too. Trying to get some more of those going on. Working on some good context. I think next week I'll be reporting on how if you're not able to make it to the seasteading thing, that'll be available on YouTube for you guys to go watch. We'll of course post links to that as well after the weekend, and we'll talk about that next week too. So I'm good. Anything else you want to add, Adam? You want to run through the outros then?
Let's do the outros. The Tros about. Okay, so guys, hold on. Right over here, AtlantaSeaColony.com.
I got it.
You got it. Okay, thank you. There you're going to find the links to all of our social medias. I'm talking about Facebook. I'm talking about Twitter. Instagram.
Oh, and speaking of which, I'm not sorry to interrupt you, but we've got Glenn and Babe helping us out with the content for Facebook, throwing some good content out there to you, and hopefully they're going to start posting some stuff on the page too soon.
Yeah,
I gotta give them rights to do that, don't I?
Yeah. So yeah, otherwise they're posting it to where I post it.
Yep.
So, but yeah, they're gonna help us out as they see content.
Yeah.
Now you interrupted my flow. Sorry. Go to AtlantaSeaColony.com for our social medias: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. You can find us all there. Also, you can go to Patreon.com. You can sign up for $1 a month or $5 a month for helping us out, Brendan's always trying to think of some cool exclusive content for Patreon members. And while we're talking about Patreon, we should just do it in this order. Okay, so we have our patrons, Edward Haas, Brian Acosta, S. Babe Hyde. Those guys are helping out, so thank you, gentlemen, for helping us with that. Also, if you have like $13.07 just sitting around and you're like, what am I going to do with this $13.07? Brendan, what do you think they could do with that?
They could buy a coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah, but what would you rather do?
Ooh, they could always PayPal us and give us that change.
You could send that $13.07 to www.paypal.me/AtlantaSeaColony. And we'll gladly accept it and we'll gladly put it towards building our habitat. Also, AtlantaSeaColony.com/merch. We have some cool merchandise over there. Neither one of us are wearing it right now.
Yeah.
And we got to be better about that.
I'm going to order some more this week, I think.
My stuff's in the wash right now. I can't find my ASC hat. I don't know where the heck I left that at. So I have to do a search for that. But then again, it might be a good enough reason just to buy a new one too. So
true.
Can never have too many hats. I love buying hats. That's my thing. Like some people like shoes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I like to buy a good hat. This is a brand new hat, and I'm really enjoying it. It's not dirty right now. So yeah, I'm enjoying this. But anyways, so those are all ways that you can help us and stay in touch with us and be a part of our community. So having said that, Brendan, we'll see each other next Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
All right. So guys, I want you to take care of yourselves and we will see you next week.